Bakır targam santo şurmurdu tombatı çeçanla şamsırlo neçervar çengi jengam sanja ortik kişenla yilla jingme panzo jala soranda ogon je tobam phara shinjirlo.
Now let us begin our class on the Surangama Sutra. The Surangama Sutra indeed is a very famous and well-known sutra in the mainland. By relying on this sutra, many great masters of the past had already realized the nature of truth, and they have seen the nature of their mind. Therefore, the Chan Buddhism, as well as the schools including Tiantai and many other schools, place great importance of Surangama Sutra. So this time I really hope that we can delve into the profundity of the Surangama Sutra. Of course, there are lots of books that we can cross-reference, many commentaries. I try my best to give you the teaching, and I try my best to cross-reference myself, but I really don't have that much time. So I encourage you to listen to other great masters' teachings or read their commentaries. Some of the teachings that's available in audio format, such as Master Meng Can and Master Nan Huaijing, as well as Master Xuanhua. Unfortunately, I don't have time to finish all of them. I sometimes don't really know where or exactly which part they're addressing. Each and every master has their own style. So if you were to have enough time, then it would be the best to listen to all of them, and then you can make your own comparisons. In terms of the written commentary, the main commentary, I think we should look into. One of them is Master Changshui from Tang Dynasty, and Master Jiaoguang, Master Ouyi. All of their commentaries are very well known as well. Since I don't have enough time, I read into the commentary of Master Ouyi and Master Yuanying. Also, the great monk Yi Chen, he also has a commentary. Some of those commentaries are in Old Chinese, some of them are in Modern Chinese. Therefore, whenever you have time, I really encourage you to read them. Some of those are available online, and some of them are in printed formats. Anyhow, I hope that this time when we're studying the Surangama Sutra, you should pay great attention, and after you study it well, then later on you will definitely have an opportunity to teach it in a monastery or in any of the Dharma centers or any other groups of Buddhists. This is a great sutra, and I'm sure we will have opportunity to propagate it. The Surangama Sutra is of great profundity. It is just like a Mahaati of the mainland. It includes lots of the profound methods of pointing out the nature of mind. So during the study, I really hope that you can study carefully and study with great attentiveness. This is really important. Though that I won't be able to delve into it too much, but I really hope that I can give you, provide an opportunity and give you an incentive to study it on your own, so that you can mentor and study it and tutor on this particular sutra. In the previous class, we already covered on what perceives as the mind, and the nature is not moving. The third one, we're currently addressing the third one, which was questioned by Ananda within the Great Assembly. He questioned what is subject to production and extinction, and what transcends production and extinction. At that time, King Pasenadi also stood up and stated that how I wish to perceive and realize the true mind, thereby proving it transcends production and extinction. Then the Buddha had a conversation, some back and forth with the king. Yesterday we stopped somewhere around there when the Buddha started asking King Pasenati, is your body like a Vajra, indestructible and living forever? And then King stated saying that, of course, my body is not indestructible and it changes from moment to moment. And the Buddha then started asking, how would you know? So that was the conversation we studied last time. King Pasenati then said that, well, this body that I have right now is definitely different than the body I had when I was younger. When I was young, I was very strong and I looked really magnificent. But look at me now, I have gray hair, I have wrinkles, and in the short future, I would definitely part from this world. How could I dare to imagine that my body is permanent? By looking at my body now, I know that it's going to extinct. This is the answer given by the King Pasenati. Over here, the Buddha is trying to point out the mind is beyond production and extinction. However, he appeared in such a way, he gave a teaching by having a mundane conversation with the king. This particular way of teaching is quite similar to the direct pointing out. It first started in a way that is very mundane. It almost seems quite easy, and then slowly it gets much more profound. Throughout this kind of pointing out instruction for a disciple who has lots of faith and a teacher who has great blessings, though the conversation could be simple, the transformation could be great. There could be a fundamental change in the disciple. So let us continue with today's part of the teaching. The Buddha over here said, "Great King, your appearance should not decline so suddenly." So the king told King Pasenati, saying that, well, your body's transformation, your change of appearance should not be a sudden change or sudden decline. When you state that your current state is very different than how you were when you were young, but that change is not very sudden. You don't become old in a day. And then the king replied, saying that, a world-honored one, the change has been a hidden transformation of which I honestly have not been aware. I have come to this gradually through the passing of winters and summers. So King Pasenati is saying that, well, all of these kinds of changes with my body, all of those transformations are very hidden. There is a subtle change, subtle transformation. They're not apparent at all. In fact, the aging of everyone is like such. It seems that it's very odd that how we become so old. It is just all of a sudden in one day, you look into the mirror and you realize, wow, you've definitely aged. The hair starts to get gray or maybe completely gray, and then wrinkles here and there. It seems that without our awareness, without knowing it, especially if you don't look into the mirror every day, then you would see that kind of change quite abruptly. But it happens without us noticing it. We gradually notice it through the passing of winters and summers. And finally, we reached to the state of today. Many of you sitting here, maybe you would think, whenever you chat with others, you would remember and reminisce what you used to be or how you used to be when you were young, and how you were like, when you were in university and when you went to work. I think as monastics, we really shouldn't talk too much about our past, especially when we were still not ordained, because we had already completely given up that life. But somehow, I believe people still remember those and still would talk about it without the intention. Look at the king Pasenati. He's almost 60 years of age. Maybe at that time, the Buddha's appearance is still really magnificent, but when he told the king, he said that he feels that decline greatly. And then he continued to say that, how did it happen? In my 20s, I was still young, but my feathers had aged since the time I was 10. So he said that at the age 20, he was considered as young and he looked very magnificent. But compared to the age of 10, the age of 20 is definitely older than 10, and compared to the age of 10, he was already declining, because age is a concept. And there's always a comparison or a reference for the concept to be compared to. My 30s was a further decline from my 20s, and now at 62, I look back on my 50s as hale and hearty. He said that at the age of 60, now since he's already 62, when he looked at the age when he was 50, he thinks that 50 was still very good and hearty, very healthy. Nowadays, since the monastics who can be present in the shrine hall are around the age of 60, around the same age as King Pasenati and the Buddha when this sutra was taught. So maybe it's a very interesting dependent arising. According to the Tibetan calendar, the age 60 should be above the age of 62 because there are leap years and leap months. Since there's a leap month every 2 years, then every 20 years there will be 10 leap months. So about 24 years of time there would be an extra year based on the leap month. For that reason, when we compare ourselves at the age of 60 to when we were 50 years old, we definitely feel that when we were 10 years younger, we were much stronger. Yesterday, I had lunch with a couple from the practitioners section of Larungar, and we had lunch together. He started to take the role over there a little bit later than I did, maybe around 1987. I started taking responsibilities over here in the Duduling in 1987, and he started in 1993. The other day I asked him, well, so when you went to give teachings over there, you walk all the way to the other section, but now do you take a ride or do you walk? He said because he's almost 60 years of age, therefore starting from this year, he had to take a car to come back to his home. Otherwise, it would be easy for him to go down the hill, but very difficult to go uphill. I said, well, now I still walk from home to the buildings rather than taking cars. But maybe later, when I reach certain age, I have to take cars as well. So we can see that at that time, the King Pasenadi also thought that while the year of when he was 50 years of age, he was much stronger. And when he compared to the age of 40 of the age of 30, then they were much younger and much stronger. He continued to say that world-honored one, I am contemplating on these hidden transformations. Although the changes wrought by this process of dying are evident through the decades, through every 10 years, I might consider them further in finer detail. Some of those decades, the particular word in the Chinese language in the sutra, according to Master Oyi, he thinks that the 1 decade should be counted as 12 years, but the majority of the other commentaries consider that it should be 10 years. King Pasenadi continued to say that, world-honored one, I'm contemplating these hidden transformations. He said that though that I saw these transformations, these kinds of declining, these kinds of decaying process, although the changes wrought by this process of dying evident through the decades, all the way between the 10 years of age till the 60 years of age of Pasenadi, the changes takes noticeable evident through the decades. According to Confucius, he also said that at age of 30, one should establish oneself in the society. At the age of 40, one should no longer be vexed by earthly affairs. And by the age of 50, one should be content with the fate. So he also divided the boundary of decaying by the time of a decade. You can see that between the time of 50 to 60 years of age, each year, you would notice those transformation or decaying. And then he continued to say that these changes do not occur just in periods of 10 years. They are actually changes year by year. Not only are there yearly changes, there are also monthly transformations. Nor does it stop at monthly transformations. Nor does it stop at monthly transformations. These are also different day by day. There are monthly changes, and within a month there are 30 days. Each of those 30 days there are changes as well. Examine them closely. I find that kshana by kshana, thought after thought, they never stop. So if we were to observe very closely, if we were to be very aware of all the changes, there are changes and decaying kshana by kshana, which means moment by moment and thought by thought. Second by second, moment by moment, even within one thought, there are changes like such. The changes never really stop. These kinds of changes are quite obvious and quite clear. Even if we were to observe from a medical point of view, the modern medical science also has shown evidence that within each second in our body there are about 38,000 cells. They would die off. Then the new cells will be regenerated. Through this kind of metabolism, that's how we sustain ourselves. Therefore, even from a medical science or the biological aspect, there is no constant existence. Everything is changing moment by moment. So the king completely understood that all the way between the year 1 till the year of 60, each year, each month, and each day, each moment, each second, each shortest unit of time, there are change. According to Master Chang Shui, he also stated that in his commentary, if an eyelash were to fall into our eyes, then we would feel very sensitive to it. However, if we were to place the eyelash in our palm, then we would have no feeling whatsoever. Similarly, for practitioners, especially the realized ones, whatever they see and they experience every day at any moment, it could be the changes of season, it could be the experience with the family members and friends, everything that happens around them, the good practitioners would be able to notice that they are of change at all times, changes year by year, month by month, it's of constant change. So we need to generate this kind of understanding and certainty in impermanence. We need to keep impermanence in our mind. I believe I mentioned this old Khenpo to you, that he, in fact, never really studied too much into the Dharma. However, he had this deep understanding of impermanence, let it be the external phenomenon or his own parents, whatever, and whomsoever he meets, he would consider that is of impermanence. And because of that, he generated a great sense of renunciation from samsara. Therefore, I really encourage all of you who are sitting here listening to this class, maybe you don't have that level of deep realization of impermanence, but you should think back onto your experience. There are lots of experiences of impermanence, even if they're not happened to you, they're happened to others. So you should contemplate on that. Do not take your life for granted. Do not think that you will live forever. Just as the mundane beings nowadays, it feels that they are planning as if they're going to live forever. As practitioners, I think it's quite important for us to practice and take in impermanence into our hearts. We studied that studying the impermanence of life and the difficulty to gain a human body is to eradicate the grasping of this lifetime. To study the suffering of karma and samsara is to eradicate the grasping to the later lifetimes. In this way, we will be able to generate true and genuine renunciation. If you don't have that renunciation, then whatever actual practice you engage in, including Mahā'ati, you will have a very difficult time to attain the level of realization. So this is quite important. Over here, King Pasenati, after meeting the Buddha, and in front of him, he had told the Buddha the changes of his whole life. And through this story of King Pasenati, we should really generate the sense of renunciation and develop a deeper understanding of impermanence. If you were to only generate the renunciation liberation, but not seeking for liberation, it is still not that meritorious, because nowadays there are people who are depressed and who have various kinds of illness. They want to commit suicide. That is also a sense of abandoning, but it's not really meaningful, because true renunciation is to renounce from the samsara, so that we have to, in order to do that, we have to diligently practice the correct dharma. The Buddha then told the great king by saying that by watching the ceaseless changes of this transformation, you awaken and know of your extinction. So by knowing that everything continuously to change, there is a ceaseless change and transformation, then you must know that eventually there will be one day that you will come to extinction as well. And then the Buddha then continued to ask, but do you also know that at the time of extinction, there is something of your body which does not become extinct? So over here, now the Buddha told the king, saying that, well, since you know that eventually you will come to extinction, and then at the time of extinction, do you know that there is something of your body, there is something that it does not become extinct? So the king represent the view of an ordinary mundane being who's saying that I'll get old and I will die, and everything in this world, they are impermanent. Especially people nowadays in Tibet, and lots of the lay practitioners, they are very aware of the suffering of samsara, and they're very interested in impermanence. The seniors of Tibetans, they usually feel very proud of their age. They would say that I am 60 and 70. But nowadays, I think people are very secretive. I think of elsewhere, they're very secretive of their age. They don't really want to talk about their age, especially abroad. I think in many cultures, it's not very polite to ask their age, and people would use a way to divert the question. But over here, the Buddha continued to ask, saying that, well, since you are aware that you will get old and eventually there is extinction, do you know there is something that does not become extinct? Then the king Pasenadi put his palms together and exclaimed, I really do not know. The king must be very busy. He's saying that I really don't know. There is something that does not become extinct. The king must be quite busy with the other affairs, just like war, for example. Look at Putin and Zelensky. I remember maybe a few months ago or 2 months ago, there was this popular joke about how the price of gas is very much related to the war, and the Chinese netizens were praying for the war to stop, because they can barely afford the price of gas. So the king, Pasenadi, must be very busy. Not sure if he fought a war during around the age of 60s, but he must be really busy ruling his country. Therefore, there's very little opportunity for him to study on Buddha nature or the Madhyamika teachings. But now the Buddha is going to expound the perfect teachings, such as Mahaati or the teachings from Buddha nature. I think we should also pay attention to how the Buddha gives the teaching. For example, over here, the Buddha gives the teaching in a very gentle way, but some of our Dharma teachers here, they're very harsh when they give instructions. I've heard of such incidents, but let's look at how the Buddha gave the teaching. The Buddha then over here said that, now I will show you the nature which is not produced and not extinguished. He said that, great king, how old were you when you saw the waters of the Ganges? The king then over here replied by saying that when I was 3 years old, my compassionate mother led me to visit the Ganges. The goddess Jiva, we passed the river, and at the time I knew it was the waters of the Ganges. So he said that the compassionate mother led him to visit the goddess Jiva. In some of the commentaries, it says it's goddess Jiva, but in the Tibetan translation, the translation is Vishnu. So he said that his mother took him to the temple of Jiva, and then by passing there, he saw the water, and by that time he knew it was river Ganges. As monastics, of course, we don't really have that concern, but I think it's quite important for the lay practitioners to take their children to meet the guru, to go to the temples, to go and do life release together. I think these kinds of activities would create a great impact and imprint on young children, especially around 3 or 4 years of age. The Kempo of the lay practitioner section, whenever he gives the teaching to the, whenever he gives the teaching and the precepts to the lay practitioners, and especially when there are more children, he would get a little bit annoyed. But I requested him to be more patient with them, because when the parents take the children to attend those Dharma events or meet the gurus, meet those teachers, it definitely creates a big impact in their life. So as monastics, though that we don't have children, but at least you can bring your relatives and your relatives' children and then take them to temples to pay homage to the Buddha, to the teacher, to take various kinds of pilgrimage tours. The various rituals even. So at that time, if you want to take the children, it definitely would create big impacts. Many great masters in their autobiographies, they mentioned the memories that they've had of their parents taking them to see certain masters, to see certain, to visit certain monasteries and so on. Look at the story of Prasanati. He remembered that at the age of 3, though he went to the temple of a heretic tradition, however, he remembered such a situation. Also, he then told the story of when he first saw the river Ganges. And then the king continued to say that to the king, saying that a great king, you have said that when you were 20, you had deteriorated from when you were 10, day by day, month by month, year by year, until you have reached 60. And in thought after thought, there has been change. Yet when you saw the Ganges River at the age of 3, how was it different from when you were 13? The Buddha stated that, well, since you said that things have changed year by year, day by day, in terms of your age and in terms of your body and how you look. However, how about the river? How about the Ganges? When you saw it at the first time at the age of 10 and after 10 years, were the Ganges River different? Because Ganges River is a large river over there, and even though there were 10 years in between, but the changes of Ganges rivers can't be that big. I remember that when I first came to Larungar at the age of 23, there was a very small amount of water over here, and we had to, but nowadays we took all the water into pipes, so we can't really see them anymore. But back in the time, in fact, we can see there are streams of water. So there are some difference. The first time I saw another river that's nearby, in fact, that river and that river back then till now, it's very similar. So the Buddha is asking, at the age of 3 and at the age of 13, or when you're at 60, when you look at River Ganges, do you feel any difference? And then the king said, it was no different from when I was 3, and even now when I am 62, it is still of no difference. So the king said, well, I don't think there's much changes over there. So between then till the age of 62, after 59 years,
就是这个59年之前见到和今天就是见到的话呢，就是也就是没有什么差别，就是这个是
there's still not much difference after 59 years. In terms of object, in terms of the object that is River Ganges, I think many of you probably have seen Yangtze River or the Yellow River or Mekong River or Lantang River. Good, you finally answered some questions. When it comes to the 5 treatises, it's difficult for them to answer the questions, but when it comes to the rivers and geography, they're very good. At the age of 60, that's good. Yesterday, when I talked about the 5 treatises, nobody wanted to answer the question, but today, when it comes to the Lantang River, you know what that is, right? The domestic part of the Lantang River is called Lantang, and when it goes to the other countries of South Asia, it is called the Mekong River. The Buddha then continued to say that now you're mournful, that your hair is white and your face is wrinkled. After the story that the Buddha asked about Ganges River, the Buddha then came back to address the question. The Buddha then said that, well, now you must be very mournful at the age of 60, after the hair is gray, face is wrinkled. The appearances change, especially compared to the youthful days. Now those kinds of changes are definitely quite drastic. In the same way that your face is definitely more wrinkled than it was in your youth, has the seeing with which you look at the Ganges River at the Ganges River aged, so that it is old now, but it was young when you looked at the river as a child in the past. You were 3 years old, very young, and now at the age of 62, though everything else, such as your body, your appearance, and everything had changed, and lots of drastic change, and there's lots of change in terms of your mindset as well. You used to be very lively and full of energy, but now you're 62 years of age. There must be a lot of change. However, the seeing of the Ganges River at the age of 3 compared to the seeing that you have now that at the age of 62, are there any differences? Actually, from the point of view of sense faculty, there must be some differences because at the year of 3, the eye faculty must be much sharper than at the age of 62. Not sure at that time if they have glasses, but definitely at the age of 62, the eyes most likely don't have as a clear vision compared to at the age of 3. However, the seeing is not talking about the eye faculty, rather it's talking about the mind. From the one who is seeing, from that perspective, are there the younger seeing and the older seeing? If we were to talk about the faculty, of course, the faculty must be different at the age of 3 years to the age of 62. There must be some kind of difference. However, in terms of the seeing, then from that aspect, there is no difference. And then the Buddha said again, saying that a great king, your face is in wrinkles, but the essential nature of your seeing has not yet wrinkled. The seeing nature has not wrinkled. The wrinkles is what wrinkles is subject to change. What does not wrinkle does not change. I believe whenever you have wrinkles, you would see those kinds of changes on the skin. But what doesn't change is that it doesn't wrinkle, which means that your mind does not change. In fact, not just that your mind doesn't change between the age of 3 till now, rather it is the mind that doesn't change between the previous life to the future life. What changes will become extinct, but what does not change is fundamentally free of production and extinction. The one that doesn't change does not have any production or extinction. That is our mind. And now the Buddha had pointed out the nature of mind to the king. Not sure if the king got it or not. How can it be subject to your birth and death then? If the mind does not have any change, does not have any birth or death, any production or extinction, how could you still experience birth and death? How can you still be spinning in the cycle of samsara? Furthermore, why bring up what Maskari, Goshaliputra, and the others say? So over here, Maskari and Goshaliputra, they are the heretic teachers. Their view are the same. They belong to the part of the teaching, or they believe in the teaching of extinction. I believe these two words need to be added into our dictionary. We should accumulate these terms. It's quite necessary. So over here, the Buddha said that why would you still follow these kinds of teachings and say that after death of this body there is total extinction? So the Buddha then scolded him, saying that since now you understand that the mind does not have production nor extinction, you should not follow that kind of teachings anymore. the King Pasenadi is unlike us because after listening to years and years of the Dharma teachings, people became quite jaded nowadays. But King Pasenadi, after listening to such a short teaching, he developed great faith. The king heard these words, believed them, and realized that when the life of this body is finished, there will be rebirth. He understood that after this lifetime, he would enter into a rebirth. That's the first step of his understanding. And then the second step of his understanding is that, in fact, there is no production, no extinction in its nature. The great masters who made the commentary, including Master Jiaguan and Master Oyi, they stated that the king understood initially he had abandoned the heretic's view of extinction. That's the first step. And then the second step, he progressed from that view, and he understood that in the conventional world, the samsara is constantly spinning. So there's constant rebirth. And then the third step is that knowing the nature doesn't change. And knowing that the mind is without production and without extinction. After those are stated, he and the entire great assembly were greatly delighted at having obtained what they had never had before. Listening to this teaching is just like we're eavesdropping to the teachings given by the Buddha. If our causes and conditions are matured, if we have the auspicious connection, then we can also attain enlightenment through this teaching as well. According to one of the biographies about the great masters, there was a specific monk. He had great virtue and he had lots of virtuous roots that is unlike the others. When he entered into the womb of his mother had a dream that an old monk came to visit her, and told her that after the baby is born, then he should become monastic. So she did. At the age of 20, this particular monk then got ordained, and then he met a teacher, and then this teacher gave him teaching on the Surangama Sutra. He developed a great faith to this sutra, especially at the time of reading the part about the Ganges River, he attained to realization. I think this part about the mind does not have any production and without any extinction, without any transmigration and changes. This part of the direct pointing out is about the seeing does not change, the nature does not change. And since the nature does not change, the Buddha then told the king about the analogy of seeing the river Ganges at the younger time compared to at the older time, or younger age, at a younger age and compared to at an older age. After understanding that, after knowing that the water doesn't change or the river doesn't change, then the seeing at the younger age and the seeing at the older age doesn't change. Therefore, the nature doesn't change. So understanding this particular teaching is just like understanding the Uttara Tantra Shastra, that the luminous mind that is unconditioned cannot be destroyed. It's the same thing. According to Buddhism, we understand that all the supreme teachings, all the profound teachings are really the same, except that the paths are a little bit different. Now let's continue a little bit further. The next part, let's continue a little bit, is on seeing is not lost. At that time, Ananda then arose from his seat, made obeisance to the Buddha. Then he put his palms together, knelt on both knees, and said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, if seeing and hearing are indeed neither produced nor extinguished, why did the world-honored one refer to us as people who have lost their true natures and who go about things in an upside-down way, in a completely reversed way?" In the previous question, didn't the world-honored one address this question and saying that the mundane beings, simply because they have lost their true mind, therefore they go about their ways in a reversed way? But now you're saying that the mind, the nature of mind is without production, without extinction. Why would you say that? Ananda, Ananda, and us, the mundane beings, we do not understand. Could you please, the world-honored one, will give rise to the great compassion and wash our doubts and defilements away? Please purify our adventitious stains and explain the teaching to us. In the previous parts, the Buddha was using his hand, his fingers, to demonstrate his teaching, but in front of the king Pasenadi, he did not use his hands, maybe because in front of the king, he decided not to use the hand gesture. Now the Buddha decided to use his mudra again to Ananda. Then the thus come one let his golden arm fall, so that his wheeled fingers pointed downward in the natural and relaxed way, as how his hand usually points down. And showing Ananda, he said that, "You see my mudra hand. Now the hand is in the mudra posture, which is really magnificent. Now, can you answer me the question? Is this mudra hand right side up or upside down? Do you think it's the right side up or is it upside down?" Ananda then said, "Living beings in the world take it to be upside down. I do not know what is right side up and what is upside down." Maybe because Ananda, after being questioned, he got pointed out that he was wrong. So now he learned from it, and then he decided to point out that the worldly beings would say that it's upside down. But for me, I really don't know which one's up and which one's down. Whenever you have time, I really recommend you to read into the commentary of the great masters of the past. For example, according to the Master Changshri's commentary, he said that the falling position is the right side, because that's how the hands usually are in the natural position. But whenever they are holding up, for example, if we were to hold our arms up, then that is not very natural. We have to exert certain effort. Therefore, that would be the upside down. However, according to Master Jiao Guang's commentary, he said that the falling down posture or the natural relaxing posture is upside down, and then holding up is correct, is the right side up. Master Yuan Ying and Master Xuanhua, they both followed the opinion of or the teaching of Master Jiao Guang. So the second opinion, where it states that the relaxing posture is upside down, and holding up is right side up. But the great masters are all really wonderful, especially according to especially Master Chang Shui and Master Jiao Guang. They spend a lot of time on the study of Surangama Sutra. They attained realization, and they composed various various commentary on the Surangama Sutra. Also, they attained this indestructible body as well. They're quite great masters. Anyhow, I think it's really important for us to study it and practice various analysis and study it in great depth. At that time, Ananda took the worldly view and stated that the living beings in the world take the natural relaxing position as upside down. And then he continued to say that they call it right side up when thus come one raises his arms with the fingers of his tula cotton hand pointing upward in the air. So Ananda over here used the people of the world to answer this question, because the Buddha asked, well, what is upside down and what is right side up? And then Ananda here specifically explained that according to the worldly point of view, there is the difference of right side up and upside down, depending on the fingers' positions. If the fingers pointing downward, then that is upside down, and otherwise it's right side up. Then the Buddha held up his hand and said, worldly people are doubtly deluded when they discriminate between an upright and inverted hand. Now the Buddha is saying that now I raised my arm and I'm going to tell the sentient being, saying that this is the wrong side up. This is the right side up. And I am going to switch the name to describe the two positions. And the sentient beings would be able to understand it. So the Buddha said that if I were to name it as right side up, and the other one, the wrong side, the wrong side, or the upside down, in this way, the sentient beings would be able to understand it. So Master O.E. said that it would be very easy to understand. It is basically switching the terms by saying this is right side up, and the other one is the upside down position. By saying this is right and the other one is down, this is right side up and the other one is the upside down, there is no reason to say that. It's just like we name left as left and right as right. They are called left and right is because they take each other as a reference. According to Master Chang Shui, he also said that what's the difference? It's just the different ways of placing or posing your arms. That's all. Then in the same way, the Buddha said that they will differentiate between your body and the thus come one's pure Dharma body, and will say that the thus come one's body is one of right and universal knowledge, while your body is upside down. So this is saying that the Buddha's Dharma body is pure, but Ananda's body is impure. Or switch it by saying that the Tathagata's body is impure, but Ananda's body is pure. In the nature, in fact, none of those are existent, but in appearance, they can appear in every way. This is similar to the teaching of Vajrayana, where the true and the false, the pure and impure are equivalent. They're of equanimity. They're simply the way to distinguish them in the way that taking each other as reference points. Their nature are all empty. However, their appearances are different because of people's different habitual tendencies. And that's how they take what to accept and what to reject. For example, when I was young, at home, we usually would save some of those cured meat. And then around the springtime, those cured meat smells really stinky. But the parents, especially the people around that time, feel that this particular cured meat is very nutritious. And then whenever people smell it, they would think, oh, this is the smell of good nutrition. It's not this kind of foul-smelling cured meat anymore. So what people think that's pure and the other people may think is impure or vice versa. The thus come one's body is one of right and universal knowledge, while your body is upside down. Usually that's how we describe the body of the Tathagatas. But examine your bodies and the Buddha's closely for this upside-downness. What exactly does the term upside down refer to? So make great observation to the Buddha's body and your body, and then where does this upside-downness locate? How can you find the upside-downness? How could you find which part or what is upside-downness? Which one would be the right side up? How does it refer to the different bodies? According to the many sutras, in fact, it describes how the paradise and hell realm, they're equivalent. In Maha-Ati teachings, it talks about the sentient beings of hell realm are no other than Samantabhadra's body. So, what is this downwardness? According to the Tantrayana teaching, from that point of view, the 5 aggregates of Ananda are the 5 Buddhas. The 5 great elements are the 5 mother Buddhas. From that angle, then how could you say that there is a downwardness or upside downness? Where is it? Where does this upside downness come from? What does it refer to? They're up on Ananda, and the entire great assembly were dazed. They were completely in shock, and they stare unblinking at the Buddha, just as some great masters, after scolding the fortunate disciples, right away the disciples would be able to eradicate all the conceptual dualistic thoughts and right away recognize the nature of their mind. So at the time, the Buddha gave the direct teaching of downwardness and no downwardness, or pure and impure. With this kind of contrast in the teaching to directly point out the nature of the mind of Ananda and the great assembly. So everyone is completely dazed and they stare unblinking at the Buddha, not knowing the upside downness of the body and mind, completely not finding it at all. So at that time, it is everyone's at the state of shock, at the state of clarity, at the state of luminosity. They're at the state of realization. The Buddha's body and Ananda's body usually has such a great difference, but now through this metaphor, you really can't find anything that is impure. So let us stop here today.